Alright, so here we are. We're at the Robert Gould Shaw. We're at the Robert Gould Shaw Monument with the all-black regiment soldiers who were fighting for the Union at the time. And Lord willing, we go through a little bit of history and speak about how these troops, how they became how they became to become soldiers, and what the outcome for many of these soldiers was, contrary to what you may believe in the movies they put on, Showtime, the Cinemax, and what have you. All right, so we're gonna get started, and we're just gonna break this thing down. And we'll to edify.
Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem, Kakadash.
Alright, so we're just gonna get into it, man. Like we said last week, we're gonna go through Boston, hit a couple of these monuments, get a little history out of them. And this monument in particular, it's world renowned because of Robert Gould Shaw, who was the general at the time who was leading the troops. Now, contrary to belief, they portrayed that the so-called Negroes that was in this regiment wanted to fight. Okay. Their idea was them wanting to fight for the Union, and they thought it was saying it was voluntary. But their main reason for fighting is because they was going to go against the Confederates, and the majority of the Confederates were down in the South. So therefore, if they overthrew the South, that would free all their brothers and their families that were down in the South. Okay, but Esau paints that picture of they came together to fight for this land. It wasn't for this land that they were fighting for. They were fighting for their families, their loved ones back down in the South that were still in slavery. All right, so we're gonna just get into it. Anybody got any? What you got, brother? Go ahead.
Ecclesiastes 10 verse 7. I have seen servants upon horses and princes walking as servants upon the earth.
Right. Now, when you pay him back, Esau, he was the original servant, and the princes are the children of Israel, so-called Negroes, West Indian, Puerto Ricans. It says they were walking as servants upon the earth. They were walking as princes upon the earth, rather. Okay, the servant was Esau. Okay, so these things that the scriptures foresaw had come to pass, man. There's nothing new under the sun. That's why we know the Lord said what? His word is faithful and true. So in the book of Hebrews, it says the word is quick and powerful. That word quick means alive. So here we see a prime example of the servant on the horse, the prince is walking upon the ground. Now, many brothers did shows a couple weeks back where they show these two Edomites had this Jacob, kind of strapped up with some rope, walking through the city. Once again, that was another aspect of seeing the servant upon horses and the prince upon the ground. There's nothing changed over there, man. There's nothing changed. There's really no freedom that these people gained. Most of these brothers died in this war, man. They died for the war. Go ahead. Yes, go, brother.
In Genesis 25 verse 20, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel the Syrian, of Pedanoram, the sister of Laban the Syrian. And Isaac entreated of the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him. Rebekah, his wife, conceived, and the children struggled together within her. And she said, If it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 men of people shall be separated from thy bowel, and the one people shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger.
Right. So there's going to be one people stronger than the other, but when we came into captivity, okay, that stronger people became the weaker people through the course of time, through the course of our transgressions, okay. But once again, there were two. As the scripture says, there was two men or people. 2 nations were going to be separated from that body. Okay, this whole story that we're living right now, the reality that we're living, the whole story is all about Jacob and Esau. This is the reality of life, man. This is what it's all about. You still got people who are still saying that. Yep, you still got people talking about, union, unity, get together. Well, the scripture says they both struggled in their womb. That struggle consists and continues to this very day, man. It may not be on a very physical level where you see everybody going to arms right now, but the struggle's still there. Even when you like when you're walking down the road and you see a so-called Jake or Edomite, there was always that connection with you and Jake, man. When you go into a facility or where you see Edom all over the place, you may see that one Jake. You both look at each other, and that's that connection you have, man. You're like, yeah, what's going on, man? You don't know each other from a hole in the wall.
I was thinking about that last night. It's interesting you say that because we got a lot of, I guess, I listen to a lot of podcasts and radio, talk radio shows, and one thing that's constant is are people subscribing to this African thing, right? And when you think about when I think about Africans, when I see them, I don't feel that connection that the elder was talking about. I don't feel that brotherly love, that camaraderie. But I can see Asher, right, who I never met, who I never knew, and feel that connection, right? And feel like that's my people. I feel like I'm a part of that, you know. So it's interesting that you say that, you know, and that's like the elder said. That's what this whole regiment was about. This 54th regiment was about the people that had escaped slavery from the South and came here to the North, and they wanted to free their cousins, their uncles, their sisters and brothers. They wanted to free their people, so they wanted to fight and be a part of this, right?
Not only that, you know, they were getting their asses handed to them.
Yeah.
So they had no other way to look but to the so-called Negroes
Right.
to help out for this war.
Right.
Okay, because when you look at this monument ain't about the 54th Regiment.
Right.
It's not about them. It's about the man who's on the horse.
Right.
Okay, these men that you see here that are on foot, they were expendable. Okay, but to glorify the whole aspect of what we're seeing here, they want to throw. He led the so-called Negroes, and he said in his memoirs that the so-called Negroes were had more valor and more spirit than their regular white troops.
Yep.
Okay, so if you ever go to war, these are the people you want to be on your side, man. And this is why they summoned up all these so-called Negroes. Okay, we're gonna go down to the place where they were recruited, and if the Lord permit, we'll go down to where they actually train these men. Okay, but once again, now when this mural was designed, okay, many people I'll say this, he was fond of his troops. He was very fond. Shaw was fond of his troops, and they wanted at first to put him on the battlefield with his men. Okay, but the only conflict with that is if they had put him on the battlefield with his men, he would have been the same size as his men, and they wouldn't have been able to distinguish how much of a mighty man he was, because at the end of the day, they were all the same size. They're all fighting the same war. But coming back to reality, now it's like we gotta make this man be the shining star. Okay, we gotta make this man stand out above all men. Now they all fought the same war, right? Right? Did they not? They all was in the same war. They all faced the same adversity. But why is one esteemed higher than the other? You see? But these are the things that when you go through history, you know how insignificant the so-called minorities were during that time period. Okay? Now when Abraham Lincoln had came into effect with the Emancipation Proclamation, you know, it was like we said last week, it was said that the slaves were free, but you still had southern states that had slavery. Okay? But in the school system of this world, they'll give you the belief that all black people were free, which was not the case. Okay? And then when you can go online and look up 5 things you didn't know about Abraham Lincoln. We mentioned it last week. Okay? He was highly opposed of making the black man equal to white men. He was highly opposed to that.
I got you right here. If I may read the article.
Yeah, you go first.
So this was a response that Abraham Lincoln responded to Executive Mansion, okay, of Washington. Okay, so it says, I have just read yours of the 19th, addressed to myself through the New York Tribune. If there be in it any statement or assumptions of fact which I may know to be erroneous, I do not know and here controvert them. If there be it, and Salaki, the sun is just walking up. If there be in it any inferences which I may believe to be falsely drawn, I do not know and here argue against them. If there be perceptible in it an impatient and dictatorial tone, I waive it in deference to an old friend whose heart I have always supposed to be right. as to the policy I seem to be pursuing, as you say, I have not meant to leave anyone in doubt. I would save the Union. I would save it the shortest way under the Constitution. The sooner the national authority can be restored, the nearer the Union will be the Union as it was.
Right. So it was more about his national authority, because at that time, during the Civil War, as we all know, the country was split in two, right? So the whole decision of the Emancipation Proclamation and all these things, it was a war tactic, right. and it was more important to get the country unified under one power than it was to have slaves freed. So that's what they did. They freed the slaves so that that war or that battle can be evened out. Because if you look at the South, right, much like the Electoral College, you can use the population, your slave population, to your advantage if you're a southern state, right? So Abraham Lincoln, being a smart man, he knew that. So he said, if we free them, then the first thing they're gonna want to do is come here, right, and fight on our side. So it was a tactic to balance out the war, so the southern states wouldn't have an advantage over the North by using their slaves. They would have outnumbered them.
He says it right here.
I have a question.
Bro. I didn't mean to jump in.
No, it's okay. He says it right here. It says, I have not meant to leave anyone in doubt. I will save the Union. I will save it the shortest way under the Constitution. The sooner the national authority can be restored, the nearer the Union will be the Union it was. If there be those who would not save the Union unless they could at the same time save slavery, I do not agree with them. If there be those who would not save the Union unless they could at the same time destroy slavery, I do not agree with them.
Making it clear.
Making it clear.
That he wouldn't have, if he could. This whole war was about keeping the Union together. Now the whole deceptive part about this all is that you really, when you think of the Civil War, you really think this was a war fought between the South and the North to free the slaves. That's what everybody believes that was about, when that was nearly an afterthought, and it's proven through documents. But the whole world believes that the Civil War was fought for the freedom of the slaves. That in itself should raise questions as to, like, what are we learning? Or why is this such a? This is a big deception. This is a lot of deception that they pull upon the people and fool the world with.
Right. It says, my paramount object in this struggle is to save the Union, and it's not either to save or to destroy slavery. If I could save the Union without freeing any slave, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing all the slaves, I would do it.
Right.
And
documents prove this. His own words prove this. History proves this. It's just the truth. Why don't we just? What's wrong with the truth? Why don't you just say the truth?
What can we do?
Right.
What can we do? But this just goes to show, like when we read Wisdom in the second chapter, it just goes to show they're not proud of their history. Right. They're not happy about their history. So what they'll do is they'll paint the history, they'll paint the story as though he was this great man, this honorable man. Really, his concern was get the country back together under one power.
if I may, real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
In this article, Abraham Lincoln is basically responding to some of the people in Congress, primarily to this guy, because he was in doubt. They were like, wait a minute, what the hell is this guy doing? They didn't know about his full-out plan, that he had to play the chess game that they were playing. So that's why he's replying to the executive mansion, okay? Letting him know that, look, man, I'm with y'all. You know what I'm saying? Like, my intention is if I didn't have to free the slave, I would do it. It's not that I love any Negroes, okay? It's not that I love them. This is just strategy.
You see, if I can say one more thing, because it mentions it in the movie. It's in documentation, but it also mentions it in the movie. When they were gathering this 54th Regiment, where it's full of Negroes, another proclamation was sent out before the Emancipation, or at the time of the Emancipation Proclamation, that said any of them that got found fighting in the war would be in danger of death, and any so-called white man that was leading them in war would be in danger of death. Right? So a lot of people don't know that, and I was shocked to hear it in the movie, so I had to look it up. Right? But what's interesting about it is they fought this war, right, knowing that they would be in danger. If they lost, they would be in danger of being put back into slavery. So here it is. The story is the Civil War was to end slavery, But here it is, these people fighting with the 54th Regiment were in danger of being put in slavery for fighting in the United States military. Yep, for their freedom, right?
Because the southern states said, listen, if we catch any of them of your soldiers, they're going right back into slavery.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, read on.
I got Wisdom of Solomon, the second chapter. I'm just going to go straight to the point. He's talking about the statue and how Shaw was enforced. It's Wisdom of Solomon 2 and 8. It says, "Let us crown ourselves with rosebuds before they be withered. Let none of us go without his part of our voluptuousness. Let us leave tokens of our joyfulness in every place. For this is our portion, and our lot is this." So this is part of the joyfulness, right? But this statue, because of what time period we're in today, they knew that this would rise. That's why they didn't also put them on the ground, because they still want to superiority over the black man.
It's a psychological for lack of a better term, to see this. You know, the story is, as we keep mentioning, the story is that he's, you know, the so-called white man was just above and beyond, deserving of all glory, but that's not the case, man. And this man, Robert Gould Shaw, you know, he even admitted to that the so-called black people that he was fighting with were valiant, man. It's like, damn, like it's almost like they were born for war, he would say. They were born to fight in wars. They were learning faster than the white soldiers. They were more ready to go into fighting than the white soldiers. He saw that. It was incredible to him.
I got a precept too.
Yep, go ahead.
This is Isaiah, the third 3:1. For behold, the Lord of hosts, does take away from Jerusalem, from Judah, the stay and the staff, the whole stay of bread and the whole stay of water, the mighty man and the man of war, the judge and the prophet and the prudent and the ancient, the captain of 50 and the honorable man and the counselor and the cunning artificer and the eloquent orator. And I will give children to be their princes, and babies shall rule over them.
These are children.
Guys, these are children, man. You know?
Say something.
Yeah, because because it says in the book of Job, you know, that they that are younger than us have us in division.
Right.
And this is a perfect example of that. When you see Jake, and then going into not just this war, but we could go into all the wars. Vietnam, when Jake was front line, the Tuskegee Airmen, and the Second World War, the Revolutionary War. They don't want to teach that, but I feel like the biggest part of this is the deception that Esau painted throughout the whole world, because his shame, everything that he's brought to glorify. Look at what I've done. When you dig down to the layers and you get to the root of it, it's all for a shame, man. His glory is being now turned into shame. Something like this. Like, this is a big lie that you taught, and you continue to teach this in your school system. You got Lincoln on the $5 bill as this great hero who freed the slaves, and that this war was fought and that cost, and it just wasn't true. It wasn't true, and this lie got perpetuated unto generations, and now the truth is being made manifest, and Esau's his skirt is being exposed.
Hey,
you know?
man, who knows?
We have to who crucified the present president.
Who knows what these men were in their past lives? Scriptures we just read, you know, they could have been mighty men, they could have been judges. That's why this devil here, he was stunned. He was stunned at the way that they were performing, because he didn't know that those were the actual ancient orators, the actual ancient military prominent men, man. That's why they were so valiant. Okay?
I got a quick precept before you read that. This brother is saying, this is Wisdom of Solomon 2 in verse 10. It says, "Let us oppress the poor righteous men, let us not spare the widow, nor reverence the ancient gray hairs of the age." So that's going right along with what he was saying, right? Because no matter what, this man, he seen that, this man seen that we were the dominant force, all right? But in Esau's mind, he's going to use that to his best ability. And that's what the scripture is saying. Oh, we're going to hold you down.
And they did that to the Buffalo Soldiers.
Exactly.
They did that to World War II. Even World War I. There was a story of one guy that he defeated a whole, one guy defeated in a trench, like almost wiped out a whole platoon of French of Frenchmen, and when he came back, it was Germans, right? Salakia Germans. When he came back, you know, they had to discredit him. No, this, you know.
Now when you go into it and you look at everything in a nutshell, what Esau has to do is it's like a diversion of this energy, because Jake comes in this energy, the spirit of warriors, being the best they could be, having the zeal. So what Esau has to do is he knows that we're a zealous people, so he has to give us pastors, you know, according to his own heart. And men like LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, Shaquille O'Neal, you see all these great athletes that are in the nation of Israel. And back in the day, LeBron James wasn't dunking basketballs. He was in King David's army getting busy. He used that athleticism, that speed, that strength to do what? To go to war, to fight for his people. Now what Esau did, he took that energy and he put us in basketball courts or football fields for his entertainment. But now we're channeling in that energy back to our power, back to our source, which is Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai.
Verse 11, it says, let our strength be the law of justice, for that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth. Therefore, let us lie in wait for the righteous. Okay?
And that's what they've done. But I'm going to say this too, though. You know, if the 54 Regiment, if they were so highly, you know, let's say highly recognized, why aren't they on horses? You know, look at it like this. If you got a boxer, right, and he has a boxing coach, and he becomes the champ, you don't see the coach getting all the glory. The fighter gets the glory. You know, likewise, you got a man who coaches basketball. The coach is going to get all the player's going to get the glory. So why aren't these men getting that glory? Instead, they put this guy Shaw on the horse and parade him through. The actual fighting is done by these men on the field, man. You see?
So you can't give us that. You can't give us that credit.
Right.
You know, because to tell the truth would mean that the things that they've done to us has been wrong. You know,
You can't portray your insubordinates to be in higher esteem than you. You can't put them men on a pedestal higher than yourself here in America. So therefore, you keep them low, keep them hidden, and keep them in the background, and let the man who so-called led them into battle. Okay, because you best believe these men that were going into battle were more superior, were more stronger, were faster, were smarter, were brighter than the men that was leading them into battle.
It's so indicative to Esau to do this. It's like the previous stage, you know what I'm saying? They take it into a basketball season. Bill Russell won, how many, 13?
Corners, the spirit, yeah.
13 titles for
11.
I'm not talking red, I'm talking Bill. He won 13, I think it was 11
Yeah, 11,
titles for and they wouldn't even give him a statue here in Boston. But if you go down to the Fleet Center, which is the Boston Garden, you see a picture of an Edomite, a hockey player. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, which is a nobody as comparison to what he is. So it goes into Esau. He doesn't want to give Jake the proper glory for anything. Even when it comes to us, this is supposed to be a memorial for the Buffalo Soldiers. Right, glorifying us, but you see Esau's right in front, you know, and center, sword and front and center. And he's taking up, you know, what about Buddy in the back? You can't even see Buddy in the back. He's being
Shadow by the horse.
Then it looks like they got an Edomite woman above them, like an angel.
Yeah, you got an Edomite woman above, floating above. Now nobody knows who that is, but you know clearly there's some white woman floating above them. It must be their guardian angel. But these are the things. Once again, when you're in your land of your captives are going to put themselves in that dominant position. Hence, you see here, Lord willing, we're going to get down to the other monument down here when the Puritans, when those the Europeans came over, how they had Gad in submission. Okay, but they ain't going to address and explain the fact that Gad helped them survive when they came over here. They're not going to talk about the diseases they came over here with. How they were damn near on their deathbeds when they got here. Okay?
Hey, in our kingdom, we're going to do the same thing and worse, because scriptures say that they basically, roughly paraphrasing, their work should pass away like a dung. You know, that's what they've done to us. All of the great works that Jake has done, they've swept it under the rug, and they've made their superstition be the glory of the land, man. And we're gonna do the same thing again in the kingdom, you know, and nobody's gonna remember shit that Esau's done, all this conquering, everything that they've done. Ain't nobody gonna remember. Right, the truth of it.
All we have to do do is stand on the truth.
Right, right.
All we have to do is tell the, because the scripture say the truth shall set you free. And if you fight for the Lord fight for the truth, the Lord will fight for you.
Right.
So all we have to do is just state out the facts of the matter and let everybody believe what they want to believe, you know?
I got precepts. This is Habakkuk 2:16. Thou art filled with shame for glory.
Yeah.
Drink thou also. Let thy foreskin be uncovered.
Right, so that glory that they so portray is actually shame. Okay, that same glory is going to turn on their own heads into shame because that glory wasn't a valid glory, man. It was a lie,
Right.
you know?
And that glory that, as the brother's speaking of, there's nowhere on these murals you see any one of them Jesus' last name
Right.
or first name.
Right.
There's nowhere. But there's one big name that stands out is Robert Gould Shaw.
The Edomite,
You know. So, but once again, in their sight of the Black Regiment, these guys, they did it. As a matter of fact, the Edomite was talking to me before we started filming. And he's talking to me. I was like, yeah, I know your history. So I said a couple things to him. He was like, yeah, well, he patted me on the back. You guys saved us. You guys saved us and walked away. I'm telling you, man, that's a devil for you, man. That's a devil for you.
And, you know, going into what he was saying, you know, it was them being we landed on the moon, you know, that's something that they took glory in, and now what? It's come to find out that they never landed on the moon. Christopher Columbus did. Christopher Columbus discovered America. Now it's coming out that he didn't discover America, but now all these things that they glorified is coming to their shame, man.
We're gonna read that, Lord willing. We're gonna get over to the recruiting center. Go ahead, read that.
Habakkuk 2:16. Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also. Let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee.
Now what do you do when the truth comes? All you can do, what do you do when the truth comes out? You know, what do you do?
And shameful spewing shall be on thy glory.
And I told myself, but I did, your kids, who did this? But you get the pointing the finger, that's why I always say, hey, slavery's been around since the beginning of time. When we bring out this, and all they could do is try to divert it when they're scripted.
Let's hit this. Go ahead, hit this. And then we're going to make our way over to Nigger Hill. We always talk about it, but now we get an opportunity.
Right, and I tried to find that book. I couldn't find it this morning. Lord, when I'll get it next week, where it speaks about this whole avenue, because this actual mural is him walking right down the street called Beacon Street. This was being created right down this road. This very picture. So, Lord willing, I can get the book because this was once called Nigger Hill. Okay. Now, if you're well enough to do the history, you can find these things out. Because at one point, only black people lived all up in this area.
My mom lived right here.
Right? This whole area was nothing but blacks. That's why it was called Nigger Hill, dubbed by the whites. All right. So, Lord willing, we're gonna close up here. We're gonna walk over to the other spot. Lord willing, catch up with y'all brothers in a few minutes until we say shalom.
Shalom.